So, like I was saying, people are not very kind in what is happening. I don't know who's releasing this information to the designated people, but I also wanted to make this very clear about the situation with my dead sister who had Down syndrome. That girl comes from my genetics. She shares the same blood and genetics as my biological father, just as Michaela does. But Michaela obviously doesn't want to be a part of my life. And she has a different biological mother. She has a white mother. So this little girl shares the same father and same mother as me. So I wanted to say this very carefully, and the idea that the horrors that had happened with my mother being raped, no, when when my sister moved into that house and died all those years ago, she lived in that house probably for about a year at least before this transgender showed up. By this time, it had already been about 4 years to 3 years that my brother had been raped by Miguel. And Diana, being a transgender, focusing on every they know that a bunch of people were going after them as well, just to kind of do this to them, just give them a little slap on the hand. This guy did not go to prison for 20 years. The penitentiaries that are now being sent are nothing compared to the penitentiaries that were being having people held in the late 80s. Had Miguel gone to prison in the late 80s, he would have gone to the worst types of prisons where the technology and the conditioning was as worse as you could possibly think, where there is rapists, there's feces, it's yelling and screaming. It is a hell house. So I wanted to say this very carefully because this guy had done this for 10 years with his wife, transgender. They got a transgender to go after that little girl because that. So I wanted to make sure because they targeted that little girl. And that little girl began hitting that little girl in front of me, who was my sister, who was wearing a princess crown. And she did this not only in front of my mother, but she kept on giving signals about feeling sorry for Miguel and Diana. And they're the biggest Christians in the world. Now, I wanted to make sure that there's nothing compared in this life that you could ever say that because you're such a changed person and you're just all about, no. You don't get any more opportunities when you're in prison. You don't eat, you have no touch connections with relatives, nothing. You go to a hell house, that's what happens, and you die there, or you suffer. And you can't get jobs. You have to register as a sex offender. And I wanted to make this very clear because I cannot control about the people that are doing this, protecting him and defending him. So at this work site, that's all that they're doing. And they keep applying their religious beliefs to let them get away with whatever's happening. You don't understand that I believe that the most best thing for them to have probably gotten away with the situation is that they never bring it up ever again. Like, just stay quiet about it because not only happened so long ago, it can't be done about it, but they all feel bad. This guy Miguel Rivera is a monster. This guy is a very disgusting human being with his wife to have done this to my mother. They would hit this little girl in front of me and they were using her as a puppet because they wanted to say, don't say nothing about Miguel. Don't say nothing about their treasure trophy. Because Sarah Cooper and Ken Cooper knew about this. I want to say this because I have all the identifications, paperwork, lie detector tests, drawings, anything it takes to provide how truthful I am about this, and I was there when it all happened. Now, I can't believe that I was around such monstrous people that would allow a child to be anally raped and continue to happen by other males and other people because they also knew about that. I was poisoned at least twice with my mother by Diana. And I don't know what poisons they used in the food, but it was the attempt to have me develop diseases or killed. And this is when I talk about this is where the first symptoms that I believe I started to have aplastic anemia. It's very hard to prove, but I can prove this. I can tell you that my mother, I was with my mother and I drew the drawings. She told me that she got like poisoned. Like she's like, I don't know, ¿qué le pongo? I don't know what she put into the food. So this person, not only is he poisoning me as a child at 9 years old, but they're doing it to my mother. And they do this, and I remember getting bronchitis, very, very sick. Now I don't know what if they're still living in that house. They might be. I know, to my understanding, they own that house. But I want to make sure because they're on the same platform as Ken and Sarah Cooper. They're no different because Sarah and Ken Cooper were so malicious and disgustingly attacking my mother, and I was there. You allowed the child to get raped. You knew it, and you taunted, and you went after my father. You laughed at my father's funeral in front of her son that was getting raped because you didn't want to say anything. The police officers showed up in their uniform. My mother began getting held hostage and raped and began scared to go ask help for the police because that's the type of intimidation that they want to do to people. That person in this lifetime isn't going to pay for anything. They're going to keep trying to make this pig a fucking hero. And they keep doing this in my work environments and adjusting into the very deep details because they want him to get away with it. This is none of your business to know to justify what you think of watching a child get raped in front of you and me even being molested and then taunting me about it in front of a class with several other transgenders. Now, I don't go off and start talking about this, but they're so relentless to go after me about this rape that had happened and go after in the fight for Sarah and Ken Cooper and Miguel raping Frankie and hitting my mother and my dead sister that I have to make these videos. It's not me wanting to go after this situation. You don't understand. These are gay community members in a full riot because they feel intimately sorry for a guy that he knows that he shouldn't have done that, but they want to feel sorry for him. He's a sad little puppy. He wants the same empathy that a 7-year-old, 6-year-old kid wasn't going to get, like Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper. I'm calling the crisis line, and there is someone that's posing themselves as Sarah Cooper and is taunting me because they know that Sarah Cooper knew about this rape and they were going after my mother's throat and my father and laughing at my father's funeral. I'm calling the 988 or the 1-800 crisis line number and here in Denver and in several, I don't know who's routing these phone calls, but this person keeps picking up the phone call and they're playing themselves as Sarah Cooper as their expressions, their tones, and manipulating me over the phone because I have no one to talk to. I'll call the crisis line just to share a few words sometimes, 5, 10 minutes, 40 minutes, because I have nobody in my life. I think it's important for me to say, but I don't know who's transferring these phone calls to these people. I desperately wanted to make these videos to say in what's happening. They're taunting me about that laughing at the funeral. They're taunting me about my dead sister, and it's the crisis line. It's these people that are taunting me that I'm not saying anything violent over the phone, nothing, and they just want to taunt me and target me. That's all it's about. Making my life as miserable and worse and taking advantage of the bad situation and making it worse for a joyride. These are suffering, horrible, dark entities of the people that are over the phone that are doing this. I wanted to make sure y'all understand this. This is what's happening. I have no control who's tapping my phone, who's rerouting it to specific people, and the specific people to do a certain type of behavior directly over the phone when I'm not in such a good situation because they want to taunt the dead little girl in my dad's funeral service, which is a total havoc, and my mother's husband. So I wanted to say and make this video, doing everything that I can to try to hold my job in this situation. Hopefully this kind of touches a lot of bases of everything that's going on. I don't think I'm going to last, like I said, but then I'll have to fly and leave out. I've already been threatened within the first 3 days of work that they're going to keep doing something to me until I leave. I don't know what it is specifically. They know it's going to be irritating, yada, yada, but they're going to keep doing it, making it worse. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to do, if I have to go and sit in a chair till 9 or 10 o'clock at night until the lights are turned off and he has the whole place to himself, then that's what I'll do. just so that I know I have a job and I have a bed to sleep. I don't care. It is stealing my money. I'm paying $366. I'm not able to utilize the place fully to the same experience as this person may be, and it's because of the people that are managers and all these other people. They're very targeting me in detail about my mother and very detailed about everything about what's going on about these rapes that had happened. This was a horror. You don't understand. There's too many celebrities right now. I don't know if they're watching or getting a chance to watch these videos or not. They're all in a gay community right to defend this child molester, and that's all they're fucking doing. You don't understand that I don't want to be talking or being around and going to grocery stores, and they're just taking a joyride. I don't know who's doing this, but it's very calculated to go after me and maliciously at the most guttering, pigging, infested shit that you can imagine mentally and emotionally. Picking up, things like I'm picking up a basket that looks like a coffin like my sister, and they try to practice a sort of seance, a ritual of death practice. And yeah, she's just a death, like a worthless dead body. It was Ken Cooper that protected her. They're so crazy, so fucking crazy. These are only homosexuals that are doing this. There's no straight women anywhere at all. They're all doing this. They're targeting very detailed information about my mother, about the lady that transgender that was hitting that little girl. Nobody knows how bad they went after my mother. And Sarah and Ken, let me tell you something. When Frankie got raped and Miguel kept on charging at Frankie, I like 7 or 8 times I had seen Frankie cry, like him scared. And this guy, Frankie was in karate, I think started when he was about 14 years old. This guy's fucking huge. And I wanted to say this because there were some homosexuals over at the karate class, and I remember the guy that was keeping my brother quiet about it. And I could draw you pictures about that as well. It was a white guy. And they said, just don't worry about it, it's okay. And so I wanted to say this. My father committed suicide when I was a few months before my 13th birthday. Frankie is 4 years older than me. He's about 15 or 16 years old at this time when this happens. What do you think that happened? The fact that you're having Miguel charge at you, within 6 months, my mother gets slapped and beaten, hit really fucking hard. Did Sarah and Ken somehow get that information and say, hey, Diana, oh no, they're never going to tell you they're bad people. I know what I'm telling you when I say this. I did not know that this had happened. Now, I talked about and drew these pictures on how they went after and charged at my mother, both of them, and now they're utilizing their family to go after me and the kids. Marco, the twins, and other family members to make sure they can get and take control of her money and financial decisions and her personal inner circle of decisions. So I wanted to make this very clear. Whatever it is that they're telling you that they were nice people, they're lying to you. I was there. Frankie was there. Julian was there. And you don't understand because Julian and Frankie don't know how really bad this situation was. And my mother doesn't have anybody to her defense at all. I am her last defense to say what these pigs had done and how they're gonna get their kids to go and just shuffle around like my mother's just a guinea pig. They could just, shake her around and get some money out of her and get them to do what they want. So my mother is very, very not dependent of the situation, and it's very frightening because they're going after my mother, and I can't do anything about this. So as far as I say about the whole suicide with my father, Sarah and Ken charged at my mother's numbers of it's just happened 3 or 4 times. Imagine that happening and your son is being raped and Miguel's still charging, and they're over there and all these people are running around these circles trying to blame just on So I wanted to make this very clear. I don't know who's doing this and transferring the phone call to Sarah Cooper and posing as her, but she's taunting about the funeral service and the funeral service of my dead sister that I had never attended. Family, I don't even know where she's buried. There was no ceremony. They're very calculated in this. These are slimy pieces of shit that are getting on the phone. I don't know, not every single one of them, but it's Sarah Cooper that's doing this over the phone with Ken Cooper. And it's their platoon of people that they're sending. It's the LBG and transgender community.